hard and think long about what's going on. And that's the really important part, is to really understand what Christ expects from us. This is a time of great challenge right now. A time of great Christian challenge right now. Everything that is happening in our country and around the world can be directly correlated to Scripture. And you will see that Christ is setting up the road map, as one can say it. He's getting everything ready for his move on earth. There are passages in Isaiah, passages in Corinthians, Proverbs, and all of it did not just happen. Those Bible literature, it is not of what was going on then, it's what is going to happen, because Jesus Christ had not come to earth yet. This is the Old Testament, which a lot of people, they're not Old Testament people that study it, but the Old Testament is very, very important because it correlates to the New Testament also. And so we have to remember that, hey, you know what? I have to understand this. And what is amazing is that all that is happening in the world is talked about in Scripture, but not as fortune tellers. No, not like fortune telling. It's Christ speaking to the prophets of what's coming. And it's really important because everything that is happening is Christ is preparing to come down on all the corrupt, the wicked, and the evil ones, the greedy ones. Christ is getting ready to crush them completely. And folks don't understand that President Trump does not even know that God is using him, but he is, to fulfill his prophecies. Absolutely he is. As you will see in about a month or so, maybe less, you will see God's hand do its work. You will see Christ do his work by using President Trump and what's going to happen with this election. President Trump has been a magnificent president because he has stood for something that is so, so precious, and that's unborn life. That child isn't in someone's womb, it's a life. It is a life. And too much of it is going on. Too many abortions. President Trump is the first one to actually stand by Christian faith, I should say, by Christian faith. And this is amazing because no other president has ever done this. So we have to remember why he's doing it. He's doing it because God is actually using him. God chooses certain people to lead his people. He used King David and King Cyrus, and these guys were not perfect. These two men were not perfect. They were the furthest thing from perfect, from being like real Christian guys, but guess what? Jesus Christ used them. And that's what's amazing, that Jesus Christ used them to lead his people. For decades and decades and decades, the Jewish communities and the Jewish people, they have strayed away from the teachings of Christ as they did in the old days. They would not accept that Christ had come to earth. They would not accept that he was the Son of Christ, even though he was Christ in the flesh. But he would not accept it. He just said, nope, we're not going to accept that, that this is the Son of God. But Christ, they angered him because of their disregard for what actually was in front of them. So he spread them out all over the world. And now towards the end of times, he's going to he's going to bring all his people home to the promised land. Jew and Gentile alike will be brought to the promised land. President Trump fulfilled a huge biblical prophecy. He recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And that is something that is really prophetic. Because Christ says anyone who blesses Israel will be blessed many times over. So we have to pray for Israel. We have to pray for Israel because this is what Christ wants us to do. We need to understand that we're coming to a time and place to where the second coming is very, very close. There are a lot of people out there, even personal friends of mine, that they're non-believers. It is what it is. But right now, the spirit of the Antichrist is roaming the earth, trying to do as much damage as possible. As much damage as possible to the world, to our nation, to the people. He's out to destroy. He's a liar. He's a thief. He's a destroyer. That's what he is. And we have authority over him because Christ gave us that authority in his name. And we have authority over all demons and Satan in Jesus Christ's name to rebuke him. So we have that power. Maybe we need to start to use that power in our homes, in our jobs, in our communities. Because the time is near, folks. This is not some crazy radical Christian talking to you. This is a man who was not a Christian. I've only been a Christian for 2 years. And I can tell you my life has changed dramatically. Because I have followed his footsteps for the last 2 years. So I'm here to just let you know that, you know what? If you have, I can't even know how to say it. If you have a situation with somebody that you hurt or they hurt you, make peace. Forgive them. Because that's what the prayer says. When you say the Our Father, that's exactly what you're doing. And you're asking God to forgive you, just like you forgive people who trespass against you. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. So that's what I'm talking about. The time is now to get yourself straight with God. Get yourself straight with God because the eventual is going to eventually happen. But we have to understand that we have to fight for our nation. This nation was established under Christian ideals and beliefs. And we have to make that never change. We have to keep that sacred. A lot of people have tried to take God out of our society. All the liberals, public schools, don't even have the Pledge of Allegiance anymore. They took God out of all the schools. Why? The public schools, I should say. Why? Because it's called the evil that Scripture in the Old Testament talked about eventually was going to take place here on earth. So I just want everyone to realize what's going on. Get with God. Straighten out your lives. Making sure that you're right with your neighbor. Even if someone doesn't forgive you, but if you forgive them in your heart, that's forgiveness enough for God. Okay? That's forgiveness enough for God. Because that's what He wants. That's what He wants, is for us to understand forgiveness as He forgave us on that cross. He took death. He took upon death for our salvation. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back on later on.